Welcome everyone. Welcome to Local First Community Day, and we're talking today about using LiveStore in Expo. Expo being a framework for making mobile and web apps in React Native, and LiveStore, of course, being LiveStore. So we're going to be doing a lot of, we're going to be talking, but we're going to be doing a lot of actually trying it out on our machines. So I have this link, this bit.ly link here, right here, in the slides 18 times. So if anybody doesn't miss it on the first slide, you'll find it on the second and third. But you can head over there anytime to start setting up if you don't have anything set up yet. But there'll be a few minutes before we actually go try to do this all together. So who are we? Beto, who are you? There we go.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Beto. I work at Expo as a developer success engineer, and I'm going to be joining Keith to this workshop. A little bit about myself. I live in the US, Bentonville, Arkansas. I like to create educational content, and if you want to learn more about Expo, check out my YouTube channel, Code with Beto. And that's basically it about me. I'm super passionate about mobile development, and I'm excited to be here today with you guys.
I'm Keith. I'm also working developer success at Expo. I am from the place that everybody has heard of in the US, but nobody knows where it is, Ohio, and it is right there. It's not one of those other 18 places. I am a smug e-biker, and I try to do everything in my bike. That's my typical grocery trip. And I like tragically unpopular video game systems. So the schedules for today, we're gonna have kind of 3 modules where we progressively learn how to get things connected with an Expo app in LiveStore. We're gonna try to build the tiniest feature ever, maybe slightly contrived, but perfect size for a workshop, we hope. And then we're gonna kind of do a presentation about what it's like to deploy everything. We know it's kind of hard to deploy everything in an hour and a half after just learning about it. So we're gonna kind of show you that, but you can walk through it yourself if you want to. So each of these is gonna have a kind of a part where we explain things and then let you try it out on your own. And once again, if you're just coming in, that bit.ly /Expo LiveStore 2025 is where you can start to get everything set up. Oh, there you go, thank you. So our demonstration app today, we have this collaborative notes app. It lets you write a note. It lets you and other users react to them. It is a universal full stack app in a PNPM monorepo. So we have the mobile app as one package in the repo, which is built with Expo. We have the web app, which is built with Vite. And then we have the sync backend, which is the LiveStore sync backend connecting to a Cloudflare durable object worker. So what is Expo? Expo is a React Native framework for building mobile and web apps. So framework that it's kind of everything else you need besides React Native itself. React Native is an engine for putting mobile, writing JavaScript to put real native mobile views in a native app. So it lets you write cross-platform apps, but React Native core itself is just that piece that makes the views that go onto the mobile app. There's all these other things you need when it comes to tooling and libraries to make a React Native app run. So Expo is a framework for that. We provide open source tools with SDKs that let you access all the device APIs, put videos, images, all sorts of things in your app, a CLI to make it easy to interact with in your local dev environment, navigation, routing. And then we also have a services layer. So the open source stuff is all open source. You can use that. You don't have to use any services with Expo to build an Expo app. But if you want to use services, we also have cloud mobile app builds, over-the-air JavaScript updates. So you can update your app without actually updating it in the stores by swapping out the JavaScript. We have web hosting and also now mobile CI/CD. So how does LiveStore work? One thing that I really love as I was diving into this and explaining LiveStore is just even though it's very, it's very sophisticated in its operation, understanding it is really simple. There's kind of 3 different things to know about it, I think, that are key. is number one, it uses event sourcing to create a history of everything that happens in the store. So every time you do something, it's an event. I create a note, I edit a note. But then in terms of how it's actually consumed by your app, it's stored in SQLite and it's reactive SQLite hooks. So you are reading from the database using a hook, and every time the database updates, anything that is using that data, using that query is going to re-render. So you don't have to think about the sequence events, of course, when you're rendering. You're just thinking about, let me grab some data in a tabular format. And then finally, when it comes to the sync is this push-pull sync. So it's kind of like GitHub, where before you can push all your changes, you need to pull everything that's happened on the server ever since you have last pulled it. So it works a lot like how if you were syncing your changes from GitHub. So we're getting into the first module now. I'll give the link up there one more time. So we're going to actually work together to run the app. We're going to have you all run the app in your local dev environment while actually connecting to a existing durable object worker in the cloud. So we're all going to try this kind of as an experiment to get everybody syncing their app on the same LiveStore sync service. So that might be kind of interesting because this is a lot of people trying to potentially sync a lot of data at once. So this is half getting things set up on your end. It's half beta testing, it's experimentation. So if it all goes really well on everyone's individual machines, it might get a little bit slow up on the server just because that's a lot of people rebasing a lot of stuff at one time. But then we're going to quickly move over to actually running it on your local system, doing stuff that's a little more realistic. Everybody trying to edit the same note in a workshop at the same time isn't super realistic, but we'll see how it goes, because that's how you learn. So once again, one more time, that link is up there at bit.ly/Expo LiveStore 2025. If you haven't gone there yet, now is the time to go there, because it is going to take you through getting the app running on your machine. You're going to be cloning the monorepo, and you're going to CD into packages mobile. So you're going to go into the mobile app. You're going to copy a little bit of environment. Did we put the URL in there in the environment already, or did we?
I think we have it.
Okay, we should stick that in there real quick. Well, is it already in the repo though? So to copy it. I think it is in the repo. Yeah, the link. In the instructions?
I don't think so.
Check that real quick. Oh wait, that's my laptop. Oh, give me my laptop. I'll double check that. All right, while everybody's getting that set up, we'll make sure that the link, if it's not already there, shows up there in about 15 seconds, so you don't have to actually write that off of the entire slide. But yeah, so we're gonna have you go into these instructions to get the local Expo dev environment set up, and then that should connect you to the LiveStore server. And I'm gonna walk through that along with you guys here. All right, cool. So since we have a lot of folks who at least got something to happen on their phone, which is good, even if it wasn't something that you liked to happen, which might have been like a call stack exceeded error. We realized we might have not, maybe we should have deployed the worker again in the last day or two. Fortunately, you'll be working off the latest worker, so that'll be perfectly fine.
Like there's an issue with the star ID, there is a conflict. So if you try to connect to the default star ID, it's going to give you an error, but if you change that to something else.
Oh, interesting. So that's perfect because we do have a experiment in the next few minutes where you change the store ID. So you will learn how to do that in a moment.
You can change that in the layout file.
Cool. So we're going to move forward, and we're going to have everybody connect now to their local dev server. So you'll be able to follow the instructions straight after the first part here, but we're going to just explain some of the underlying stuff here as now you dive into hacking on your own. So in the case of LiveStore on the web, it's built using it would be WASM SQL, right? Yeah. So a WASM SQLite database, a SQLite database that works on the in JavaScript, WebAssembly. So one of the big challenges, of course, with getting us to work on mobile is you have a completely different database. But fortunately, there is a SQLite layer, a JavaScript layer for SQLite using Expo SQLite. And so you'll find as you get into a lot of local first solutions, this is what they're built on when they are being ported over to mobile. So we're also working with Cloudflare durable objects. And it's a very simple setup. If you actually look in the sync backend code, it's like two functions. It's like on push and on pull. The durable object is a Cloudflare worker that has storage attached to it. So you get storage and the worker in this one package. The SQLite version is free to try out. So that's what we'll actually be in our deployment instructions showing how to do that with the free Cloudflare durable object worker. Yeah, this is how simple that code is. It's on push, on pull. This is the adapter for the LiveStore Cloudflare durable worker. And it also has a hook for this validate payload hook, which we'll be playing with a little bit, which is basically a basic hook for integrating authentication and authorization. So on push, you're sending your changes. On pull, you're getting your changes back. Of course, since it's you need to get changes from the server first, it's calling on pull first, and then it's pushing the changes. But also at the same time, it's going to have this validate payload feature. So you can have your own authentication flow. Maybe you're going to use Clerk for authentication or something like that, and then have it on the other end validating like a JWT. We're going to be interacting with the LiveStore dev tools in this next part, where we're going to spin up our local server, connect our local app to it in a simulator or emulator, and then using the dev tools with it. And these dev tools are pretty cool because they let you visualize the events that are coming through. It lets you see what it looks like represented as a SQLite database table, and lets you interact. It also lets you see if your sync status, is your sync working, that kind of thing. So our goals for this section, we are officially in the main part of Module 1. Of course, we've been working a little bit independently already, but you're going to continue with the instructions there to move over to the local instance, which we have seen so far is working a lot better. But we've already gotten the first part. Most of us, it looks like the first part where we got the mobile app doing something. So now we're going to switch that environment back over to the local dev environment. And we have some things for you to try out, some things you can try out in the dev tools, and then also just some little tasks where you can kind of break LiveStore to learn how it works, such as changing the store ID. That store ID is kind of a data isolation layer within the durable object worker itself, or LiveStore in general, where you can say we have different segments of data that sync independently. So you're going to play with that, as we noticed that worked better in some cases. And I think we play with the authentication payload a little bit too. So we're gonna turn you guys fully loose on Module 1, and we're gonna walk around and help you guys out however we can to get you guys running. The fact that you got the Expo app running, if you get the Expo Go app running and you get it connected to your local LiveStore, as I like to say, you've already won the workshop because you got the thing running on your computer, and everything, the world is your oyster at that point forward, because you could try any of these things out, you could do whatever you want with it at that point. So we're going to give you, it's about 10:30 right now. We're doing pretty good on time. We're going to have it probably about 15 minutes where we work through that part before we kind of transition over the next part.
Okay, so you can see on the screen that I'm connected to the deployed sync server. And I changed my store ID to be this hard-coded test01. And now to see what's going on with everything flowing through this store ID, on the terminal, you can press Shift-M, and you're going to see that at the very end. Let me close this thing. We have this Open LiveStore DevTools option. So if you hit Enter, this is going to open a web view, very cool view, where you can see all the events that are happening in this specific store ID. Queries, events, and I'm using my real device here, and if I start typing stuff, each time that I type, a new event is created, and we can see it in real time using the tools. I'm just typing stuff there, And this is the deployed sync server, so everyone can try it using test01, and we should be able to see the same events from everyone being shown at the same time here. So this is the event log that LiveStore uses under the hood. We can also view the sync part there. And something really nice is that we can also run SQLite queries directly from the DevTools. So if you try to open DevTools right now, you might be required to log in. So you can follow the instructions on the terminal and use GitHub to sign in. At the moment, LiveStore DevTools are for sponsor-only people, but if you sign in now, you get 2 weeks free trial. So it's more than enough for the workshop and testing stuff. And if you really like LiveStore, you might consider sponsoring the project on GitHub. And then you'll get full access forever. I mean, as long as you sponsor the project. Are you guys able to run the DevTools? Nice. Cool. So I want to show how you can load the database here in the SQLite, and you can start running stuff like select all from, I think it should be nodes, like this. And yeah, I think it is nodes without the S. And you can see the stuff, the results right there in the DevTools. So I really like this because you don't really need to have the app running. If you really want to inspect the data, you can just open the DevTools and offload the database. At the end of the day, this is a local database that lives on the device, SQLite database, and you can download it, inspect it, or if you want to just load a bunch of data at the same time, you can load a database directly here, and it's going to populate the data on the device as well. So if I had a DB with 1,000 items, I can just load it directly. And I think that's great for troubleshooting an issue. For example, with a user that has a specific set of data, you can download that specific user database and load it here. Another cool thing about the DevTools is that you can see the performance of each query that you are running. So, yeah. Right now I only have one node here, but as soon as I create another one, you can see the data in real time. Anything else that I'm missing here?
Pretty good.
You can also change the session here in case you're using multiple devices. So in my case, for example, I can run the website as well. So on the terminal. Yeah, I think this is pointing to my local host. Yep, I guess I'll switch to local host. It's easier. So if you switch to localhost, you need to restart the server, otherwise the environment variable might not be reflected. Okay, so next, what we're gonna do is create a new feature on top of what we have already. Here I have a quick video showing how to add super reactions to what we already have. So right now you can react to a node, but what we want to do now is just having a long press on the reaction. And after the long press, you create a super reaction. And we have that little animation. I don't know if you can see it there, like a little particle animation. So we're going to do that so that we can see how we can integrate migrations to the, adding new fields to the schema, and how easy it is actually using LiveStore. So first of all, LiveStore provides a schema, by the way, that allows you to shape the data that you're going to be using. And you can take a look at the schema just by searching schema in the repo. But it's pretty intuitive. Here we have an example. You define the tables. It's just an object. You define the shape, the ID. In this case, I have a to-dos example. It has two fields, ID, completed. Then we have events. Since it's using event sourcing architecture, we define the events that we want to track. So in this case, I only have one, like when someone completes a to-do, and we call it V1 to-do completed. Then we have materializers. Materializers, it's where you actually updated the database based on the events. So the materializer, as you notice there, it's taking the ID when you complete a to-do, and then it goes and updates the database for that specific ID and sets the completed to true. That's a materializer, just materializing the events. And then we get the state using LiveStore, and that is going to come with the tables and materializers, and then we can export that as a schema variable in this case. Then we pass that to the LiveStore provider, and that's it. We can start using the state. It's going to hot reload. It's going to come with the query builder to run queries. And yeah, just to talk a little bit a little more about event sourcing. With LiveStore, as you change your schema, you don't need to do anything. LiveStore is actually going to detect that you maybe added a field to the to-dos table, and it's going to run a migration in the local SQLite database. And then you can create more events, like in this case, I added V2. If you notice, I'm prefixing with V2 to do completed, and maybe I added a new field there and just pass that in there, and that's it. Clients should just be able to update the schema, and that's all. Okay, just let me talk a little bit about animations, because we have that little particles animation when you do the long press in the reaction. So normally on the web, you would use CSS for animations, and specifically for performant animations. So we have something similar in the React Native world, Expo. It's a library called Reanimated that allows you to add super performant animations that run on the native side of your iPhone or Android device. So I created a particles component that you can find in the example. You can take a look if you want. But basically, this Reanimated library allows you to animate values, for example, from 0 to 1, and have a really performant transition. And then you can pass these values to a style, for example, to increase its height, or move it from x0 to x1 or x axis. And you can pass other methods like with delay. Yeah, you can see here some of the methods that you can pass with timeout if you want to wait a little bit. If you want to make the animation bouncy, you can do that as well. So our goal for this new feature is just to modify the LiveStore schema by adding the super reaction. If you open the lessons folder under module 2, you're going to find more instructions, more detailed instructions, but it's just adding the super option in the reaction. Then we are going to update the UI by adding a new event when you long press on the reaction. And then finally, we're going to call the particles to show them when you do the long press. And we can also add some haptics. You can find more instructions in the lesson 2 markdown. And we can, do that together.
What we were doing here was we were having like a kind of call it a thin vertical slice function feature. So you might be familiar with that in Agile, where you're like, I'm going to build, the tiniest thing end to end. And when you think about something end to end in a LiveStore and an Expo app or any front end, you're going to be thinking about, okay, I'm adding a little bit of schema, and I'm adding UI to represent that schema, and then anything else you have to do. So in our case, we were adding simply a different option to the reaction to make it more like a super reaction, as we called it. Let me check that I have my dev server running here. pnpm run dev. Should be up here, going here. So the end feature that we're building, I'm just going to be on the latest version here, so you don't watch me switch my code and not have it work. Test note, hi. We were going to press the reaction, and we had like normal reaction here, and then we had hold it down, get a little pop thing. You blink and you miss it. It's a very simple animation, pop. And then we called those super likes. You're like, you really liked it. And who knows how you would actually represent those in real life. We just made it a different icon there. There you can see a super like and a regular like. But to add schema, we would go into, we had stuck these in a shared place because we were sharing schema with the web app as well. But you would have your schema itself. So this is defining the tables. So we have this reaction table here, and we added this type. So once we wanted to say that we have two types of reactions now, a regular and a super one, we added just a simple text type here, string, and we said it was allowed to be regular or super. This is another good point, as this kind of relates to the migration discussion we were just having before, which was okay, we can't predict what versions our clients are connecting. We have to make sure we have a fallback in case an old client tries to connect to new schema. What kind of schema can we add? And schema in LiveStore should be additive. In this case, this is schema that is an easy migration. Or it's an automatic migration, really, because I'm adding a field here and I'm giving it a default value. So when someone upgrades to a new version and now they have this new schema in there, it's going to continue working because everything that didn't have a type in the first version now has a default type. Because remember, it's basically the events are the source of truth. The schema, the SQLite is just a reflection of the history of events. So you'd apply those V1 events, and they would all get a default type here. They would all get filled in with regular. So it continues to work. Now, on the other hand, if you deleted, deletions would generally be dangerous. Delete a field, Johannes could probably answer this authoritatively. Delete a field, if you're not using the field, might be okay because you just wouldn't use the data. But deleting tables wholesale would be pretty dangerous. So usually you want safe schema changes are additive. And if you don't want to use something that you added in V1 and you go to V8 and you don't want it in there anymore, you just kind of orphan that. You don't really or maybe you migrate it to a new table or something like that. You want to be safe about it. So once we have the schema in there, now we need to talk about events because remember, the schema is just a reflection of it. So what we did in here is we had V1 note reacted. This is what we already had. But then we added V2 note reacted, which is the same thing as before, but now it's just filling in a type. So this is the definition of the materializer, which is the thing that creates the event in your code. You call this when you want to add a reaction. But these also, before you end up with the materializer, you actually do have to go back and add this event. So this is where we actually make the event. So you'll see here, what it originally looked like is it was just this, note reacted. I export this, I get to call this in my code. It's making a V1 note reacted event. Now I had to rename it because then I wanted to make V2 here. So by naming it the same thing, I could just basically replace all instances of my code of note reacted. I didn't have to go rename everything in my code. But then I want to basically deprecate this old guy here. So he's getting exported, but he's only being used really in that schema file. He's not really used anymore in my actual application code. because if I go over to my file here that's actually using it, here we go. I should have note reacted in here somewhere, I think. Note reacted, here we go, yes. So I have this function here, handle reaction. It's calling the event note reacted. Before I changed it, it didn't have this type in here. But once I changed all of my schema and my events, I start getting all the TypeScript squiggles because I'm exporting an event that now requires a field I don't have. So then I would go update my code in here to add the type. And once you really close that loop, you're done with the schema part. Like, the app would have worked at that point just with the regular reactions if I had done nothing else other than just like pre-filled that type in and said that every type is regular. But then, after that, I just went in and I added a separate handler for handling the super reaction. So you'll see here, the code would start off with on press, handle reaction, and then I added an on long press, handle reaction, and then instead of the default reaction, I passed in the super. So that's what created the whole difference in data at that point. At that point, now the feature is complete. That takes me to holding it down and getting the super reaction. Everything after that was pizzazz. So we had provided a like kind of a built-in animation where basically when you mount this component, it kicks off like this little like pop. It basically puts a little bunch of like random particles around it. So we happened to like just kind of time it out, so it worked out. Like long press always has like a fixed, like I think it's like 1 second maybe. Like that's the default long press events. You hold it down, it completes its call after 1 second. So we made a 1 second reaction particles thing, so they all move together. I feel like to do this feature in production, what we actually would have done, so we referenced the reanimated library briefly as like how we did the animations. It also has different, not just doing the animations, but like how do you provide inputs to them, like gesture handlers basically. And one of the gesture handlers is like a press, like a press in kind of thing, where you could actually like say, how long do I want to press it in? So like my envisioning for like the ideal super reaction would be like, you don't just like press it in for the 1 second, it kind of goes pop, but more like you press it and it starts like kind of like, I don't know, like going like you're holding it and it's like almost going like Super Saiyan or something like that. Then you release it and then it gives you the super reaction. So like you could actually go further with the reanimated library and make this something that is like very, within the scope of how cheesy this functionality is to begin with, like that actually would be like kind of, exciting. Yeah, and that's basically how this whole feature works out here. Any questions about that? Because we're running in the last 15 minutes and we're actually ready to talk about the last part. So, all right, I'm gonna show you guys deployment. This is something we always kind of meant to show. We have the instructions in module 3. So this 3 deploy, you could follow my process here to deploy. This is one we always intended to show because it's kind of hard in like 15 minutes to like create a bunch of accounts, wait for a build to complete, that kind of thing. So I was going to show this part, basically the basics of deployment. All right, so there's how many different things to deploy? So we have 3 things to deploy here. Technically 4 if you count 2 mobile platforms. To deploy this whole thing to end-to-end, you would need to deploy the Cloudflare durable worker to Cloudflare. You would need to build iOS and Android apps, and you would need to build and deploy the web app. So you've got back-end, web front-end, mobile front-end. What we kind of have going through here is how do you deploy the durable object worker? So in this case, you would sign up for Cloudflare. It's pretty straightforward. That Wrangler command that you would use for doing the local server, like pretty much you just change, what do you change it to? You do npx Wrangler deploy, and it'll deploy the actual Cloudflare worker. You have to change one thing in the Wrangler file, which was, You have to change this migration to new SQLite classes. This gives you the free version. So we changed this one line to make it work for free, basically. And then you would sign in the first time to the sync backend. I'm already, or it's into the Cloudflare, but now that I'm signed in, it should work pretty quickly. npx wrangler deploy. Cross my fingers. Yep, there it goes. So then you would get this URL out here. This would be the actual URL to your Cloudflare worker. So if you were to get your web version pointing to that, you would change it in your environment here. I'm already there. And you would change it in your environment in your mobile app as well. Just need to move that over. Should be good. So then now you have the back end. So once you have the back end, now you can deploy a bunch of front ends that point to your back end. So this is the point where we're going to talk about the mobile part next. So the mobile, when you're actually building an Expo app, so we were all working in Expo Go. Expo Go is what we call the sandbox. It lets you test like a subset of React Native and Expo features without actually building a real app. Because you notice you just downloaded it. You didn't need an Apple developer account to that. You didn't need to build an APK or an IPA file. It just installed from the store. But because you installed it from the store, it's a fixed binary. The only code that can be injected into it is JavaScript. You can't change any of the native functionality in that. They don't let you update the native code. So what you typically build at this point is what we call a development build. A development build, it looks the same as Expo Go, basically, where you scan a QR code and it opens up a local dev server in an app. So it lets you hot swap the JavaScript, but it is now your binary. You signed up for the Apple developer account or you built the APK file. So it means that it can include any other native code you need. It also is just a little more authentic for testing in other ways. Like there's certain functionality you can't test until it's your own app. Like notifications, for instance. We actually took out the notification feature in Expo Go because it's kind of faking it, because you're sending it with our notification token. When really, like to really send a notification just like you would in a production app, you would actually have to register for a push notification key, all these other things. So OAuth workflows are another example where like an OAuth workflow calls out to a web browser, which then has a callback back into the app. Well, to call back into an app, you use an app-specific URL. What is the app-specific URL for Expo Go? It's going to be the same for everybody. It's like exp.something, I don't remember. But when you want to really test an OAuth workflow, you have to call back into your real app. So this is many good reasons to actually go build the development build. You do need the Apple developer account at that point to do that because Apple, well, I should say, you don't need it to build a simulator build. So you could build your simulator for free. But if you want to deploy anything to a device pre-production, let alone production, you're going to need an Apple developer account. So this is where you get in the $99 a year, et cetera, et cetera. Android, fortunately, is free until you actually go to the store, then you have to pay $25 one time. So to build a development build, we install this npx expo dev client library, which I already have installed. Oh, because I didn't put npx expo install, I just wrote expo. There we go, npx expo install. This adds a library that when your app gets compiled as a debug build, it adds that same launcher interface that you saw in Expo Go into your app. So really, it's your app, but the JavaScript bundle can be your local development server. It's an app without a JavaScript bundle. You provide the bundle later, so now you can do live development against your binary. You can keep adding libraries that aren't in Expo Go. So there's a bunch of libraries we can't include there because Apple wouldn't let us because you have to put like specific things in the store. For instance, like HealthKit is an example where like in order to deploy an app that collects health data, you actually have to like fulfill a bunch of things. So you could never test that in Expo Go, but you could test that with a development build because you could compile that code in and then you could fulfill all of Apple's requirements. Once we get into development build, and also just the fact that we've already deployed a server, now we're talking about, we want to have different variants of your device. So you think about like when you test your web app in development versus production, you're testing in development, you're just like running localhost, and now you have a web app open. When you're in production, now you're going to a production URL. You can open those in separate tabs. You don't have to like stop using the local one to stop using the production one. We want to have that same experience in mobile. So what we want to do is we want to actually have multiple icons on our phone's home screen. We want to have one for development and one for production, or maybe even more ideally, one that's at our development build, one that might be like a staging or a preview. So we want to like test the real production experience before we get to production, and then a final production app. And you want all those apps side by side. So what we do to achieve that, there's this app.json file, which is kind of like the definition of like, this is everything like that goes into your mobile app to make it a mobile app. This is like everything besides the code. Like this name right here is like the short name that goes under the icon, the splash screen, the icon that'll appear on the home screen, things, more technical things like the bundle identifier, all sorts of stuff that defines like this is everything else about the project. We can make this configuration dynamic so that we can say, hey, sometimes build me a development build and give it one name, and sometimes build a preview build and give it another name, and sometimes build a production build and give it another name. And more importantly, separate bundle identifiers, so then it installs as separate apps. So this is what I did in this next step here, is I created this app.config.js. I created a dynamic config right alongside my app.json, my static configuration. And it just says, use the static config, but change these things about it. So in this case, I want to change the name of the app. I want it to say like development and then the name of my app when it's a development build. I want to say preview and the name of my app when it's a preview. And I want to just say the name of my app when it's in production. And then also change the bundle identifier as well, because I want this to be like totally distinct apps. So when I do this, when I specify an environment variable, I can now say, make different apps. So I made this environment variable app variant, and then I pipe in like app variant development, and then I run pnpm run dev. And then this will start the development variant of this version. And then I built it, of course, and I've got both, this is my development version. I actually put my production version. I forgot to reinstall the latest one, but I put a preview version on this one. But now I can actually have different copies of my apps alongside themselves. So that was making the app variants themselves. Now the next part of that, this is where I get into the EAS Expo application services, is I wanted to set up a workflow that built my apps and then automatically piped in the correct environment variables based on whether I was building for development, preview, or production. So I did a few things here. Number one, now I was using the EAS services, so I ran this. I installed the EAS CLI, so npm install -g EAS CLI. Then I ran EAS init, and this gave me a project ID on the Expo application services. And then I ran EAS build configure, and this created some build profiles. And these showed up in this EAS JSON file, which is over here. So these are saying that these are basically the rules for like how I build my app. If I'm building a development app, it's going to have it be the dev client, so it's going to give me that special interface that I can just pipe in my own JavaScript. It's going to set it to the development environment. In this case, I also wanted to do a simulator build. And then production, likewise, production environment, preview environment. So I had these environments set up. Now I just need to fill them in with environment variables. So this is what I did over on the Expo dashboard here. is this is my project I created, LiveStore Expo deployed. Come on, you can do it. Oh, the Wi-Fi might be saturated here. So I created these environments here. So I have a development environment, and it says development for the app variant, and then it piped in also my LiveStore sync URL. So it's saying if I'm in the development build, always point to localhost. And then I did a preview, and I said app variant preview. He's gonna put the preview name in front of it. This one I did production, but I might have like a test server that I point to a different Cloudflare durable object worker. And then finally production, app variant production, and then here is my LiveStore sync URL, it's my production URL. So what this allowed me to do after I have all this set up in is I can run a command, EAS build, profile, production, I'm gonna do preview actually, preview simulator, since I need an iPhone simulator build, platform, iOS. So what this is saying is here is Expo application services, go build me an app with the profile, the preview profile for iOS. So it's saying, hey, because I specified that environment here, it automatically pulled those environment variables that I want to actually point it to my production server that will make it the preview app variant. And now it's building. I have a build here. So what this is doing is actually it's spinning up a Mac in a server, a Mac Mini in a server room somewhere, and it is instantiating a worker that is dedicated to building your app for the next 10 minutes or whatever. And it's piping in your environment variables. I can go to one that's already completed over here to show you what it looks like. Here we go, iOS simulator build. So you can see here, it's going to say, oh, here are your variables. It's a preview environment. It's connecting to my durable object worker that I just built. And this one worked, so I could download an IPA file. We also have this nice little tool called Expo Orbit, where I can click this button, and if I have this Orbit app installed in my toolbar, it will actually install it on my simulator here. Apparently I broke it. But yeah, that's how you would get a build. And what's nice about this is you don't need an Xcode or Android Studio environment set up for this. Like I've run this from a Chromebook before with like Crouton or whatever they call it now. All you need is a Node environment technically to get building apps. So that's how you would build the app, and that's how you would build it so you could actually continuously develop, test, and run production. Now the final part is, okay, we did all that. What about the web version? So Expo does support web as a target. There are a few things that need to happen with like the LiveStore library in terms of like ESM module support and things. There's some differences so far why you can't use LiveStore yet in Expo's web version, but you can use EAS hosting to freely host the app. Because you can compile the Vite app, and what it gets compiled to is the same format that EAS hosting expects. So inside of the web part, I go cd packages, web, npx, expo, export, Vite, pnpm, run. I gotta check the command here because I'm going off of muscle memory. It is build, pnpm run build. So I'll build, simple Vite build here. In order to prep it for being deployed to EAS hosting, I had to make a very basic app JSON. I just had to give it a name. This slug becomes like the project name in the Expo dashboard. and then that would also give it a project ID. So I basically ran like EAS init again on this project just to get a project ID so I could then run EAS deploy prod. And then that's right there. That would give me a production URL. I had this open elsewhere, so hopefully it works. It was right here, same here. Same thing here. Hi, it's a note. So, yeah, you're free to follow it. We deployed to production, kinda, yay. So, you can take the time on your own if you want to try to create all those accounts. The instructions are in that module 3. You can follow those through later on your own. You can get your app to, and hopefully even a better app than our basic notes app that might have crashed a little bit because I broke it. You can deploy to Cloudflare web and mobile. Oop, go ahead.
I have like my two apps are out of sync and they're pointing to the same sync server. It's like really.
What was the question?
I have it running like the collaborative app.
Oh, cool.
The simulator and the web point to the same sync server, but they're showing different data. They're in the same server. I'll check it out.
Cool. Yeah, and let me put the slide up right here. I have the slide that has the our info on here. Where did I put that? Oh, Figma, here we go. All the way down here. Any other questions while we're wrapping up here? If anybody else is, go ahead. Yeah, I'll add this. So on the first page of the GitHub repo, I'll make sure we have the slides up there as well. I'll also put the link to the survey. We have a little survey about the workshop. There's one thing on there, did I get it running? So everybody will say no. Well, some people got it running, but thanks for bearing with us for the beta test. Even if you didn't get it all working, we hope you visualize how you could get it working later, and we hope that you will want to play with it later. I'm really personally excited to build my own apps on this. I feel like we've been looking for a long time for like an end-to-end local first solution that works. It's been longer to get that to work on mobile because of so many differences between web and mobile. And this is between the intuitiveness of LiveStore, the accessibility of like a durable object worker, and then being able to deploy pretty easily everywhere. Like I'm really excited to try this one on my own app. So I hope you are too. And I hope you'll visit us in lots of places. You can chat with us in particular. We answer a lot of questions on chat.expo.dev and the our Expo Reddit. So, and the one thing I forgot today, I left the Expo stickers in my hotel room, and I gravely regret that. But we'll be here tomorrow, and I will bring the Expo stickers. And even if I somehow screw that up again, I'm in the same hotel, so you'll just tell me to run upstairs and get the Expo stickers if I forget them. So I'll put them wherever there are commonly stickers. I will keep a bunch in my pocket, so if you run into me tomorrow, to be like, I didn't get my sticker, Keith, give me my sticker, and just, I'll hook you up. Thanks, everybody.